ब्रॉडकास्टर्स के कुछ राइट्स होते हैं और लाइसेंस होता है जिसके मुताबिक हमें चलना पड़ता है। उम्मीद है जो कि हमारी लास्ट जो फीडबैक था उसके मुताबिक तमाम पाकिस्तान के बड़े शहरों में बल्कि 80 शहरों में पाकिस्तान के जो है पीटीवी स्पोर्ट्स केबल पे देखा जा सकता है। एंटना पे, टेरेस्ट्रियल पे आप यकीनन देख सकते हैं। लाइव वेब स्ट्रीमिंग भी जो है वो कल से बाकायदा शुरू हो जाएगी विद इन द टेरिटरी ऑफ पाकिस्तान। सो अगेन आप लोगों का बड़ा कहना चाहिए, आप हमारे स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं और आपने हमें हमेशा भरपूर दाद दी और हमने अपने सेट को भी चेंज किया, ब्रांड को बेहतर बनाने की कोशिश की और आप हमारे साथ शामिल रहेंगे कल से, उसके भी ऐलानात हम बाकायदा करते चले जाएंगे। कीप ऑन वॉचिंग पीटीवी स्पोर्ट्स। जहाँ तक बात आती है जी आईसीसी चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी की, एक हादसाती तौर पे ये जो है इस टूर्नामेंट का आगाज़ किया गया और जगमोहन दालमिया जो है जहानी जगमोहन दालमिया, उनका ये ख्याल था कि बांग्लादेश में इसको कराया जाए और प्री टेस्ट स्टेटस बांग्लादेश जो है वो उनको शायद माली इमदाद मिलेगी और एक टूर्नामेंट जिसका नाम विल्स इंटरनेशनल कप रखा गया और वो साउथ अफ्रीका की टीम ने जीता जी बांग्लादेश के बागू बादू स्टेडियम में और वहाँ से बाकायदा चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी को विजडन ने मिनी वर्ल्ड कप जो है कहना शुरू कर दिया। अगेन इन ईयर 2000 जी केन्या जो है उसको ये एजाज़ हासिल हुआ कि वो ये टूर्नामेंट चलाता, प्रोडक्ट बना, ब्रांड अभी नहीं बना था और कुछ जो है मसाइल माशी शुरू हो गए चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी के हवाले से। न्यूजीलैंड ने फतह हासिल की सन 2000 में केन्या में और एंडी एटकिंसन जो क्यूरेटर थे आईसीसी ने उनको चंद माह पहले कीनिया भेज दिया था टू इंश्योर दैट इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो है वो इंटरनेशनल लेवल का हो। एंड वी मूव ऑन जी, आगे हम चले मूव फॉरवर्ड तो 2004 इंग्लैंड जो है अगेन फाइनेंशियली ये टूर्नामेंट जो है बहुत बेहतर साबित हुआ बिकॉज वेस्ट इंडीज़ की रिसर्जेंस हुई एंड वेस्ट इंडीज़ लेड बाय ब्रायन चार्ल्स लारा दे वर एबल टू एनेक्स द चैम्पियनशिप। 2002 में जो श्रीलंका में टूर्नामेंट खेला गया था, 2 फाइनल्स कराए गए, बहुत तनकीद हुई इस पर बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे जो है वो बारिश की नज़र हुआ दोनों फाइनल्स और श्रीलंका और इंडिया ने जो है वो शेयर किया चैंपियंस स्टेटस। एंड 2006-2009 ऑस्ट्रेलिया दे वर द आउटराइट चैंपियंस और जब जिस वक्त 2004 का टूर्नामेंट हुआ तो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका की टीम का ऑस्ट्रेलिया से मैच हुआ और ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने उनको 64 रन पे आउट किया और फिर 65 रन पेन्स टेकिंगली 24 ओवर्स में मुकम्मल किए। सो वहाँ पे रिकी पॉन्टिंग हैड एन ओपिनियन that teams like Bangladesh and United States, they make international cricket less competitive and they should not be playing. लेकिन फिर बांग्लादेश ने कितना इम्प्रूव किया, ये प्रोग्राम जब आगे बढ़ेगा तो हम बात करते चले जाएंगे। वेस्ट इंडीज़ इज़ आउट ऑफ द आईसीसी चैम्पियंस ट्रॉफी and to the dismay of many followers of the Caribbean style and calypso style of cricket, Bangladesh comes in, second time they are going to play the ICC Champions Trophy. 791 runs for Chris Gayle, still the highest run aggregate in ICC Champions Trophy championships, and of course 28 wickets for Kyle Mills of New Zealand. We would be discussing many aspects and the financial part, because ICC, it actually created this product and then sabotaged it when they decided to enter a deal of $550 million in 2002 for the 2 World Cups to be played in 2003 and 2007, and then dented it further. That was in 2007 when they introduced ICC World T20, which became an instant hit and the highest on consumer demand. Though the connoisseurs and the orthodox critics of the game still think that T20 cricket is not real cricket. And in 2013, last time it was played in England, India won the ICC Champions Trophy, and at the end of the day, the best part was that ICC suspended it and they decided to move on. They didn't want ICC Champions Trophy to be hosted again. But then the thought was revisited, and it is back now again to be played in England. And the reason about that is that initially they were contemplating that ICC World T20, another edition, would be played in India in 2018, another big ticket item. But then the England Cricket Board intervened and they said they have to prepare their market and their brand for the 2019 World Cup to be staged in the United Kingdom. We have loads to discuss and loads to talk. And now, coming on to our panelists. A gentleman who started in South Australia and the St. Leonard's School he went to, and then of course Prince Alfred's College, the institution which had produced people like Joe Darling and Clem Hill. And this gentleman debuted against Pakistan in 1964 at Melbourne in the test match where Arif Butt on his debut picked up 6 for 87 and Hanif Mohammed got scores of 93 and 104. Then there was a little lean period and he came back a couple of years later and then never looked back. And the way he played for Australia, he changed the concept of international captaincy. He was a fierce competitor and he wanted to win from the word go. He was at times ostracized and criticized for his rebellious persona, the way he came across. And John Arlett once said that he was a cricketer to good effect rather than for the graces. The gentleman who introduced Jeffrey Thompson and Dennis Lilly, the way they bowled, they started to love the sound of leather on flesh and bones. He got 100 after being dropped at 0 and 14 in 1971 in the 5th test of the Ashes series, and then went on to score another 100 in the next, that was the 6th test match. We have with us the ex-captain of Australia, one of the most distinguished critiques of cricket, the man who hardly holds back, understands the game in its intricacies, and there have been people saying that the late Martin Crowe and this gentleman, they know cricket and they know their cricket. A little controversial when it comes to a statement against Pakistan, not Pakistan, but the Pakistan cricket team, and we have with us the legendary Ian Chappell. Ian, very welcome to Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Doc.
So how it has been playing for Australia, captaining Australia, and somewhat like in a flavor of Richie Benaud?
It's so long ago I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, it's always an honour to captain your country. I was a bit surprised when I was given the job, but yeah, I was very fortunate that I was 16 when Richie Benaud took over the Australian captaincy, and I'd just taken over the captaincy at school at Prince Alfred College. Yeah. And because I batted and bowled a bit of leg breaks, and Richie's style of captaincy really appealed to me. So, you know, I sort of fashioned my captaincy approach a lot on Richie's style.
All right. And cricket was almost at home. Your maternal grandfather captained Australia, Victor Richardson, and he was a double international, represented Australia at baseball. You tried the Australian rule football as well as baseball before getting into cricket full time?
No, I represent Australia at baseball,
okay.
Not Vic.
Okay, that's great. Okay, right. So you are a double international?
Yep.
Wow. All right. And another thing, when we discussed inviting you, obviously it's a matter of honor to have you here in Pakistan. And I received a phone call. Hey, is he the same guy who was talking against the Pakistan team quite recently? Ian, what went wrong? What happened?
Well, you know, I didn't enjoy the way Pakistan played their cricket.
Right.
You know, having seen Pakistan play and played against them, and again, you know, particularly when Wasim Akram and Imran Khan were captain, very, very competitive. But you know, what they've lost now, 9 test matches in a row in Australia, I think it is, something like that. Well, I mean, I would say the same thing about Australia going to India. You know, this time they turned it around. The last 2 are there, but before that they'd lost something similar, about 9 test matches.
But I think Pakistan, they have lost 12 test matches in a row in Australia.
Could be 12, yeah.
It's
a lot.
1999, 2005.
9 to 12. What's the difference? You know. Yeah. But so I would make the same point about any team. If you keep touring a country and you don't do very well, that country, in my opinion, is entitled to say, you know, if you don't improve your performance, we won't issue an invitation. Okay. So, you know, Australia turned it around in India this year. Yeah. But if I was the Indian board and Australia had lost 4-0 again on this tour, I'd have been saying to them, hey, listen, if you don't play better, we're going to get somebody else who can come here and play well.
Because the counter argument was that Australia, they were decimated in UAE when they played against Pakistan, and Misbah got that fastest 156 deliveries.
Yeah. That's fine, but to be a good cricket team, you've got to play well wherever you go. You know, it's no good being very good at home and not so good, in fact, to the point of being bad when you tour.
Sure. And we have another guest tonight, and he would be joining Game On Hai, and he has been here before, and we are seriously considering to give him a contractual presence here at the PTV Sports. The only human on earth having scored 100, a 200, a 300, a 400, and a 500 in an innings. Someone who turned it around, and like it was Sir Gary Sobers, and then he left it to Sir Vivian Richards, and then came Brian Charles Lara. The man who fascinated with his flamboyance, his timing, his swing, and one of the most attractive batsmen the world has ever seen. Our friend Brian is here. Brian, very warm welcome to Islamabad.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're looking dashing. The tie is just sparkling.
I always look forward to coming to Pakistan. I think it's, you know, my last visit was enjoyable.
All right.
And, you know, obviously
your host was rather enjoyable, no?
I think the guys in the periphery, you know, I had Glenn McGrath was there, and Saklan Mushtaq, Rashid Latif. We all enjoyed ourselves, and we made sure we gave you your room to, you know, to express yourself a majority of the time.
Yeah, and no champion song this time. West Indies out. How do you feel? West Indies not playing in the ICC Champions Trophy.
Very, very disappointed. You know, as a player in the past and a captain of a successful team in the Champions Trophy, we also got to 2 finals. I remember, I think the first time the Champions Trophy was introduced in 1998, we were beaten by South Africa in the finals in Bangladesh. The next year I captained the team was 2004, which we won in England. And we lost in the finals against Australia in 2006 in India. Yeah. So for me as a captain, it's been a very successful run in the Champions Trophy. And so it's very disappointing now that the West Indies, you know, can't really get into that scenario. I understand the fact that you want to have it compact and you want to have the 8 best playing teams in the tournament. Unfortunately, we can't. We're not involved in it. Hopefully, we can get back involved. And I think the West Indies have shown in the shortest version of the game, the T20 version of the game, that we are the best in the world. We won quite convincingly in the matches that we've played. Even losing to Afghanistan, that's not a problem. But I think it's a form of the game that we excel in it, the shorter version of the game. And having suffered at the hands of Pakistan recently in the Caribbean, in all forms of the game, I felt that this would have been a nice tonic to be in England. The last time we've won anything major in terms of a 50 over version of the game. So for me it's disappointing, and I'm sure for all West Indians, and as you said, you know, we're perennial favourites for most country or most people around the world. So I think the West Indies team will be missed.
But don't you think that it's not only West Indies lost, but world cricket's lost, and teams like West Indies, they should be playing all the ICC tournaments?
I think so, but again, you know, we've been on a downward spiral for quite some time, and maybe it's a wake-up call, not being involved in such a big tournament. That's, you know, we don't want to be in that state, you know, and then we don't want to go to a tournament with little or no chance of winning, and that's the position that we're in. We're out of the tournament simply because we're not ranked in the top 8 teams, and I think it's a good wake-up call. It could be a situation where, you know, we can gather some momentum from here. You know, missing this tournament for better things to come in the future.
All right. और जी हमारे साथ पाकिस्तान के साबिक़ कप्तान and one of the best wicket keepers, technically most apt और लड़ने के भी मास्टर थे जी, and more competitive, राशिद लतीफ़. राशिद भाई कैसे हैं? ठीक ठाक हैं?
डॉग कैसे हैं आप?
सुना आप इंग्लैंड गए हुए थे, क्या आप एंडी एटकिंसन के साथ पिचेस का मायना कर रहे थे?
नहीं, आपके लिए टाइल्स लेने गया था.
So how has it been जी? Off game on है.
गेम ऑन है. देखें, मैं और वसीम नहीं रहे यहाँ पे, प्रोग्राम भी नहीं हुआ यहाँ पे.
देख लें यार, मतलब कमाल नहीं है?
कमाल है.
आपने तबाह कर दिया.
सेम डेट वापस आए हम लोग.
So comments from Ian Chappell?
बिल्कुल. इयन चैपल जो कि हम सुना करते थे बचपन में, कमेंट्री सुना करते थे और उनको देख के क्रिकेट खेलना शुरू की और वेलकम करते हैं पाकिस्तान में. और जो मैचेस खेले हमने उसमें भी हमारे लिए बड़े अच्छे कमेंट्स किए जब हम खेलते थे 90s की टीम थी. और वेलकम करते हैं ब्रायन लारा को, दोबारा से पाकिस्तान आए. बड़ी खुशी हुई दोनों को देख के. और कल इंशाल्लाह सर विवियन रिचर्ड्स भी यहाँ पे मौजूद होंगे जिनको हम वेलकम करेंगे।
और आप होस्ट बन जाए, मैंने कहना था सर वेव का, मतलब आप बाज ना आएंगे। Well, in Rashid, first you have to catch him because he said that he was very young and on radio he used to listen to the commentary of the matches in which he used to play. So he's just trying to convince us that you are very old.
At least he didn't come up to me as one bloke did and say, I was in primary school when you were playing.
Okay.
He doesn't need to make me feel old because I know I'm old.
And of course, Brian, he welcomes you and he's a little biased towards you. He thinks that
Number one.
you have been trading places against me, and so it's something notorious is going on behind the scenes.
No, I think we enjoyed each other's company back in the T20 World Cup. Yeah. I was totally wrong in my selection of the champions. I think Rashid had from day one had the West Indies. Let's see what happens this time. There's no West Indies. So
there's no West Indies.
So who did you pick?
I think I picked
South Africa.
I picked South Africa
and New
for a little
Zealand,
bit, and then I just eased down to England.
Haven't you looked at their previous?
That if there's the issue between Cricket Australia and the players is not going to be resolved, then no Ashes. So, and Darren Sammy promptly retweeted, "Welcome to our world."
Very good point. But I don't think for a moment that it's not going to happen. I mean, it's a big money raiser for Cricket Australia, the Ashes series, and knowing the history between Australia and England at cricket, does anyone think for a moment that Cricket Australia are going to put a fifth-rate side out on the field and virtually hand the Ashes to England?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
There might be still some posturing to go on, but eventually I think common sense, hopefully common sense will prevail.
But now a very simple question.
Yeah.
Who is wrong in this case?
Well, like all arguments, there's wrong on both sides.
Okay.
But I mean, it's about 25% in round figures. 25% is the revenue share for the players.
All right.
Now, that doesn't sound unreasonable to me. I mean, if you think about the elite players, it's the elite players who make sure that the game's on television. It's the elite players who make sure that people come to the ground. And it's, the really good players that regenerate the game, because it's the young kids watching the game who want to be like David Warner, they want to be like Steve Smith, they want to be like Mitchell Starc. So they then, or they want to go and watch them. So they either become fans of the game or they become players of the game.
All right.
So 25% for the people who are, the big attraction in your game doesn't sound unreasonable to me.
They are the major stakeholders.
Yeah, of course so.
Yeah,
but it's got to work as a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a partnership between the players and the administrators.
We
I don't think the administrators realise that, but that's what it should be.
But we always thought that Australia was much more disciplined than the boards in West Indies or in Pakistan. But now they're at loggerheads.
I dealt with them for 4 years as captain, and I can tell you a different story.
Okay. Okay, Brian, so how do you see, because Darren, again, one of your most successful modern time captains, won 2 ICC World T20s for the West Indies, and the way the senior pros, they have been treated quite recently, do you really think that it is the stubbornness of the West Indies Cricket Board that is actually ensuring that West Indies slithers into further discomfort?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say that players are always right, but being a player as well. And during that period when Sir Viv and Clive Lloyd and they left the scene, I felt that the board was very authoritative in their approach to everything. I don't have inside knowledge of what the finances of the West Indies cricket looks like. I mean, of course, they have first-hand knowledge of it. But I felt as an international sportsman, especially the decade that I started in and what's going on now, player remunerations are very high. You look at soccer, you look at baseball, you look at any other sport. I think one of the key things that it's important to understand, you look at a franchise system in cricket, which really and truly is what is happening in football for many, many years.
Okay.
As long as you've placed that into proper hands, into people who are seeing it as a business, a profit or a loss, you find that the players have greater respect, they're treated better. You speak to guys that play in the IPL, and they're very, very comfortable. I played 1 season or 2 seasons at Warwickshire, and back in those days, it weren't much pounds. They weren't giving you a lot more pounds, but the professionalism in the dressing room, the way they treated you administratively with whatever you needed, was just very, very good. So I felt that the West Indies Cricket Board, and I still feel today, do not treat the players or give them the respect that is needed for anyone to say, but listen, you know what, West Indies cricket is #1 for me. Everything else comes second.
Right.
Now the guys are pretty much looking for career outside of the West Indies. And I'm not talking about the seasoned senior players. I'm talking about even the young ones.
Okay.
They're eyeing different franchise cricket around the world and not really looking to play for the West Indies. And I don't know what the situation is in Australia. I felt that you look at the relationship between the board, and I can only speak about the times of Stephen Moore, where you felt that the baggy green meant so much to them. Everything else was secondary. But they have their problems, and I'm sure, as Ian said, that they're going to solve it definitely long before the Ashes. They're not going to have that little into the English very, very easily.
All right. जी राशिद भाई, क्या समझ रहे हैं आप पाकिस्तान के chances को playing against India on June 4th, the big one, the cracker?
पहले वेस्ट इंडीज की थोड़ी बात करूँगा।
बात करें जी वेस्ट इंडीज।
वेस्ट इंडीज का ये है कि वर्ल्ड कप और चैंपियन ट्रॉफी में खेलना चाहिए, क्योंकि एक टेस्ट प्लेइंग नेशन है। 75 का वर्ल्ड कप जीता, 79 का जीता, 83 का फाइनल खेला, 2 T20 जीते, चैंपियन ट्रॉफी जीती और एक डोमिनेट किया। तो टेस्ट प्लेइंग नेशन को खेलना चाहिए। अब वेस्ट इंडीज़ की जगह अगर आयरलैंड खेलेगा, आयरलैंड में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर नहीं है और वो लोग फॉलो भी नहीं करते क्रिकेट को। मेरे ख्याल से इसके बाद इनको शायद आइडिया होगा आईसीसी को कि किस तरह से हम लेके आएंगे वेस्ट इंडीज़ या कोई भी पाकिस्तान या बांग्लादेश अगर बाहर होता है तो ये बड़ा नुकसान है इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट का। तो 8 टीम्स का जो था चैंपियंस ट्रॉफी का मतलब है चैंपियंस टीम खेल रही हैं। तो वेस्ट इंडीज तो चैंपियन 5 या 6 दफा हुआ है, तो उसको खेलना चाहिए था। यही चीज मैं पाकिस्तान के लिए बोलूंगा, यही दूसरी टीम के लिए बोलूंगा। जो टेस्ट प्लेइंग नेशन है उनको आईसीसी के इवेंट्स में होना चाहिए।
ओके, सो Ian and Brian, Rashid is of the view that okay, fine, ICC has decided that you have to qualify, but to him, West Indies was indispensable when it comes to the ICC tournaments. They were the world champions in 75, 79, played in the finals in 83, won 2 World T20s, won the Champions Trophy in 2004. So he thinks that ICC retrospectively may well have to consider that the Champions Trophy means that game of the champions, and they should not be conceding such teams.
Well, I mean, cricket really, it's a black mark against cricket that the West Indies have been allowed to disintegrate to such a point. I mean, if you think about it, I'm talking now purely from an Australian point of view.
All right.
But the big attractions in Australia, England and the West Indies for a long time, then India of late.
Yeah.
And they're the big draw cards. So in world cricket, your 4 big draw cards were those 4 teams.
Yeah.
And to allow one of your big draw cards to go down the mine the way cricket has allowed the West Indies to go down the mine, I mean, there's so much talk about globalising the game, which I don't have a problem with globalising the game.
Yeah.
But one of your major draw cards, while you're globalising the game, don't let one of your major draw cards go down the mine. I mean, they had to do everything possible to keep West Indies cricket up because, as Brian has said, as everybody says, they're a great attraction. Everybody wants to see the West Indies, but they don't want to see the West Indies like they are at the moment.
Yeah. And it's more or less it's happening to certain other teams, like even Pakistan. If you see, it has gone down to number 8 in the rankings in one-day cricket.
Well, it's very sad that Pakistan can't play cricket in its own country. I mean, that's, and you see here again is the problem. Young kids, they want to go to the ground and see their heroes play.
Yeah.
But young Pakistanis can't go to the ground and see their heroes play. I mean, they've got to go to the UAE to see them play.
Absolutely.
So that's not good for Pakistan cricket.
Okay, जी राशिद भाई, क्या कहेंगे आप इस पे ब्रेक?
बिल्कुल, होम सीरीज होनी चाहिए और प्लेयर डेवलप आपके होम सीरीज में ही होते हैं। जिस तरह हमारे काफ़ी प्लेयर, यूनुस खान हो गया, अजहर महमूद हो गया, मोहम्मद वसीम हो गया, सबके डेब्यूज इधर ही हुए हैं। मोस्टली यूएई में तो ठीक है, लेकिन ऑस्ट्रेलिया, इंग्लैंड, साउथ अफ्रीका में होता है तो प्रॉब्लम होता है। और ये बात बिल्कुल ठीक है कि यंग जो जनरेशन है वो अपने हीरोज़ के सामने ही देखेंगे। लाहौर में टेस्ट मैच हो रहा है, कराची में हो रहा है, पिंडी, इस्लामाबाद, कहीं पे भी हो रहा है। तो तो सामने जब प्लेयर्स को देखते हैं तो डिफरेंट अप्रोच होती है आपकी, तो मतलब फॉलो करने की.
Right. Well, Rashid is in total agreement with you. He thinks that we are missing the role model, the younger children. They can't see their stars playing at home. But now my question before we take the break to Brian is, Brian, like West Indies, they have had phenomenal players, starting from Sir George Hetley and then moving on to Sir Everton Weeks, Clyde Walcott, Rohan Kanai, Sir Frank Worrell, then came Seymour Nurse, and of course Sir Gary Carfit Sobers, Vivian Richards, yourself. Where those role models have gone, you haven't been able to impact, or why these generations are now getting lost in wilderness?
Well, as you see, I can easily tell you that a lot of those former players have spent more time coaching youngsters around the world than in the West Indies.
Okay.
The offers of coaching jobs have been extensive. I mean, Gary Sobers was in Sri Lanka. Courtney Walsh, I think, for a youngster who's growing up, you have to deal with kids who are most likely not going to make it. You have to bring them on. You have to deal with ones who are maybe child prodigies. And we, I believe, still have a lot of talent in the Caribbean. And I believe that the former players could bring it out. But nobody has really extended any invitation of such.
All right. और जी एक और चीज़ जो आप ही के फीडबैक पे हमने जो है ये सोचा कि कल से we'll be having जी 2 प्री मैचेस एंड 2 पोस्ट मैचेस, 1.5 घंटा उर्दू में और 1.5 घंटा इंग्लिश में होगा, ताकि वो जो बायलिंगुअल का इशू था सो वो शायद आपको अब अफाका हो जाएगा जी, और पोस्ट मैच भी कुछ ऐसा ही होगा. एंड सर आइजक विविन रिचर्ड्स, he will be joining us tomorrow. He is on his way from Dubai to Islamabad. And Brian deliberately left him behind? No? No. We take a break, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Game On Air. So Ian, we are back on air. I hope you didn't sleep during the break.
No, slept on the plane.
You slept on the plane, okay. Now coming on to this Champions Trophy, and if we see that South Africa, they are normally known as the chokers, but they annexed the first edition of this tournament. Then of course we have seen India winning it twice, Australia winning it twice, and Sri Lanka once, and of course Brian Charles Lara's West Indies once. Pakistan, they have never been able to win this title. This time around now, a new generation starts. Misbah ul Haq, and of course you have seen plenty of Yunus Khan, that incredible batsman, getting 34 test match hundreds like Brian did, and you had 14 if I'm not mistaken. All right, so, and a century in each innings, and you scored 100 and Greg scored 100.
Yeah, we were the first brothers. We might still be the only
you're the
to get 100
brother.
in each innings.
100 in each innings in a test match.
He's cranky with me because I declared when he was 247 not out, he thought he was going to get 300.
Okay.
I said winning the game's more important.
More important, all right. So now, how do you see the ICC first coming out with this championship, and then deciding in 2013 that no more of Champions Trophy, overdose of one-day cricket, let's get focused on World T20s because of the revenue generation part. Don't you think that unlike FIFA, ICC has failed quite miserably in making their products into brands?
ICC's been a continual failure.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't very good when I was playing, but there weren't that many teams playing then, and it wasn't so noticeable. But, you know, a lot of the problems in the game of cricket can't be fixed until you fix the ICC.
All right.
I don't think anyhow. But coming back to the Champions Trophy, this tournament looks to me like what it should be, a prestige tournament. You know.
Okay.
And I think this has the potential to be the best Champions Trophy of the lot. I think it could be very, very competitive. I think you've got 4 outstanding teams, but the other 4 are all capable of causing an upset.
Yeah.
South Africa, South Africa are rated pretty high. Well, they're #1 ODI side at the moment. But I've got some questions about South Africa. I mean, one, the fact that they have this, this problem when they get to the knockout stage of a tournament.
What could be the problem, if you could elaborate? How could you see it with your vast experience?
Well, I think the problem in the past, I'm not so sure about the last couple of years, but to me the problem in the past was their method of playing was to constrict the opposition, to try and keep the runs as tight as possible. Now, that works against lesser opposition, but when you get up against a team that is either as good or better than you, you've got to attack them. You've got to provoke mistakes. It's no guarantee of winning, but it's your best chance of winning. I mean, I discovered in the 70s, mid-70s, playing against the West Indies, that, I mean, if you played them in a 50-over game, if you didn't bowl them out, they were going to get whatever you set them.
Okay.
So you had to bowl them out.
Yeah.
And you know, I think has escaped South Africa. And now I think it's got to the point where it's been a monkey on their back so long.
Yeah.
And they, I mean, 2015 World Cup, AB de Villiers said, no, that's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
What did they do? They collapsed again. So they've got to get that monkey off their back, and I don't see them doing it this time. You know, Rabada, I think, is a terrific young fast bowler.
No.
But then the fast bowling falls away a little bit. I think they've probably got to play Morne Morkel.
Okay.
0.
And
9.
You know, I think there are better attacks. I think both England and Australia
5.
have got better pace attacks than
3.
South Africa.
Yeah, well, you just took Rabada's name.
Yeah.
And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, I received a call. And I picked up the telephone, and Saklan Mushtaq was at the other end. I said, what happened, Saki? You're calling me 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, I heard that Rabada has broken my record of being the youngest to get 100 wickets. Make a no, relax. It's since Saklan Mushtaq. So your record is intact. Okay. So like Ian elaborated, if it comes to South Africa, because I did discuss this thing with Jonty Rhodes and Herschel Gibbs. And they thought that the compulsion of having the coloured players in the South African lineup at times impacted negatively on the balance. And but I think now all those coloured players, they are actually the best product South Africa has to showcase. But in case if you see this year, in the last 2 years, they have, out of the 35 one internationals they have played, they won 23, lost only 11, and they are the best team in one-day contemporary cricket. So how do you see South Africa coming along in this ICC Champions Trophy with AB de Villiers and the way Hashim Amla recently played in the IPL?
I think that what a lot of people are forgetting, that that monkey you talk about in their back, that time when they need to deliver and they don't, they've actually been beaten by a better team.
Okay.
Yes, it might have been the semi-finals of a tournament, or I remember back in 1996 when South Africa won all the matches in the World Cup, and they faced the West Indies in Pakistan, and we got on top of them, and we won that quarterfinal and went on to lose the semi-finals against Australia.
All right.
But they are going to come up against a very good team if they get through to the semi-finals at the stage of the tournament. And is that bad luck? Is that a monkey in their back? Or is there a team that's going to play better than them on the day? Somebody's got to win. Australia has dominated one-day cricket for a couple decades, since, you know, losing the finals in 1996 and winning from 1999 in the World Cup. They've dominated it. They are not going to fall down. England's not going to fall down. So for me, South Africa is going to have an uphill battle when it gets down to that crunch time in the tournament. If they lose, I don't believe that, you know, we're going to say, well, you know, here they go again. Okay. I think if they play good cricket, they're going to win. But if they slip up at all, you know, the opposition, be it England, be it Australia, India, they're going to take advantage of it.
But Brian and Ian, both of you, recently the clinical evidence suggests that it was at Lord's, England having scored 300 plus 20 times in the last 2 years in one-day internationals. And at one time they were tottering at 24 for 6 and managing to post that 153. And then South Africa winning comprehensively. So do you really think that South Africa now looks and find metal and fully adjusted just prior to the ICC Champions Trophy?
I think all the teams are pretty much peaking.
Okay.
But you're going to have a winner and you're going to have a loser. And I mean, England won the first 2 one-day internationals, and that was a big stumbling. I don't know if that is a positive for England, because they're at home. A lot of South Africans we know play very, very good.
Matches are predicted to be interrupted by rain, and most of them, majority of them in the Wales, not in London or at Edgbaston. So probably we may well have the best Champions Trophy, as Ian said.
But it's more to do with the pitches, you know, how the weather affects the pitches.
Yeah.
You know, when you go there early, if you go there in May, you know, the pitches are a bit damp and it moves around. Batting can be difficult, but you get a dry summer in England, and there's probably not a better place in the world to bat, is it? Because the boundaries and the outfields get very, very quick, very quick. So it does depend, as Brian said, it depends a lot on the weather and how that affects the pitches.
So was it early May when Bob Massey picked up that those 16 wickets?
No.
All right.
No, that was just good bowling.
Exposed, you know, sit down in a dressing room with Virat Kohli, listen to what he's doing, or you know, De Villiers. I think that plays a very, very, very big part, and I feel that has definitely hindered the performance of the team. Getting more professionals in the team, guys with an open mind to play, to speak, to encourage the younger players, and I felt that has definitely stopped them a bit.
Okay. आप agree करते हैं ब्रायन से और इयन से कि जो ये कह रहे हैं कि लीग्स नहीं खेल रहे, चाहे शोएब मलिक और सोहेल तनवीर और अब शायद कैरेबियन प्रीमियर लीग
बिल्कुल फर्क जरूर पड़ रहा है क्योंकि टॉप लीग्स में पाकिस्तानी प्लेयर्स नहीं खेले, बिग बैश में थोड़ा बहुत खेले थे शुरू में, लेकिन बाद में बिग बैश में भी नहीं गए। कैरेबियन लीग में पाकिस्तानी प्लेयर्स खेल रहे हैं, लेकिन वहाँ की अगर सरफेस देखी जाए तो सिमिलर टू शारजा है, प्रॉब्लम होती है, स्पिनर ज़्यादा काम करते हैं। लेकिन IPL में ना होना या साउथ अफ्रीकन लीग में ना होना या बिग बैश में ना होना, पाकिस्तान टीम के जो प्लेयर्स हैं उनको जाहिर सी बात है अपने प्लेयर के साथ खेल खेल के वो पॉलिटिक्स चल रही है, जैसे प्रॉब्लम है। इंडिया ने क्यों इम्प्रूव किया? पहले ऑस्ट्रेलियंस किसी के साथ इतने मिक्स नहीं होते, जो मैं खेला हूँ साथ में, एक डीन जॉन या शेन वॉन दो मिक्स हो जाते थे, अदरवाइज दूर रहते थे। जब ये IPL में इंडियन ड्रेसिंग रूम में आए तो उसके बाद उनको मालूम चला कि किस तरह से, उसके बाद से इंडिया ने ऑस्ट्रेलिया को हराना शुरू किया।
Okay, now Ian, he has a very good point, and Brian, he thinks that yes, of course, he agrees that the Pakistani players, they are not playing in the major leagues, so they are not being exposed, and secondly, they haven't been able to come out of the cocoon they have built around themselves and the internal politics, etc., because they haven't been exposed to the greater and better players in the contemporary cricket. Secondly, he also suggests that the Indians, they had a problem with the mindset. They always had the top-class batsmen, and but they couldn't win matches until the Aussies, the Australians. He gave an example of Shane Warne and Dean Jones, who could just mix with the players. Otherwise, they kept within their own framework. So he thinks that once the Australians, they went to the IPL and they started sharing the dressing room, it has also triggered the mindset of the Indian batsmen. So that's his opinion, one. And secondly, I would like to ask you another question regarding the mindset that we have always seen that Australia is probably the only team in the world, those who at times they absolutely become merciless, ruthless, competitive, they just don't want to lose. So is it genetic predisposition or what? Is it a sporting culture in Australia, or how you people have become so competitive?
Well, I think it's probably a lot to do with the public. The public in Australia expects success, and they almost demand it. The media a bit the same. I always describe the difference between Australia and India, for instance. I'm not so sure that it's the case now, but going back to Ponting and Sachin Tendulkar time, I always said the difference was with Australia, if Ponting made a duck and Australia won, the Australian public was happy.
Okay.
India, if Tendulkar made a duck and India won, the Indian public were upset because Tendulkar had made a duck.
That's a good one.
So the Indian public, got really excited. If Tendulkar made 100, they were really excited. If India lost, oh well, at least Tendulkar got 100. That wouldn't wash in Australia. They'd be angry because Australia lost.
All right.
So they're a very demanding public. I think that's part of the reason. I don't know. Maybe it is in the DNA. I don't know. You're the doctor. You tell me.
Okay, Brian. Another question which comes to our mind that, of course, you started playing when West Indies they were still very effective, but then you actually saw the degeneration of West Indian cricket while you were just standing as the last of the Mohicans, and you were performing, and you were like individually, you were just breaking record after record. But still, West Indies, it seemed that they were not a unit, and then you also had problems. You left as a captain, and like, so how does it feel? Is it about the mindset that you were there and you were the role model to millions of the West Indians, and you were performing the feats which even they're inconceivable, but at the end of the day, West Indies, they were losing its way. So is it about the mindset, or is it about the political impact, the social cultural impact? What?
I think it was turning a blind eye to exactly what was happening, neglecting what was very much in front of us. And a lot of people don't pay attention to the fact that the West Indies was on a slide from about 1989, around that time.
Yeah. When we still
won. Yeah. But we weren't winning as convincingly as we were in the past, but we were beating Australia 4-1 or England 5-0. I remembered my first test series in the West Indies as a 12th one. It was in 1988, when Imran Khan brought a Pakistani team to the West Indies, got to Barbados leading the series 1-0. And some very ordinary umpiring decisions made sure that the West Indies leveled that series to not lose it. England in the West Indies in 1990 won again, got to Trinidad, we bowled 7 overs in the last hour. Right?
7
Ian
overs
Bishop and all these guys, I stood there, I was again 12th man to watch, I was pretty embarrassed. And we went on to win in Barbados and win in Antigua to win the series 2-1. So that slide started. That invincibility stopped about 1988. Nobody paid attention to it. The great man is going to walk in here tomorrow. I hope he's not watching now. He's going to talk that he's never lost a series. But he was not winning those series as convincingly as, say, Clive Lloyd was.
And he's on a plane. He's flying. They won't have it on television.
So when it got to 1995, when we lost our first series against Australia, we were well on the way for that sort of collapse. And I felt that the administrators did nothing. And everybody was just waiting. And the Australians did a little bit of copying of our style of playing, the physical fitness, you know, what we did. The English they were also waiting. And everybody learned a bit from the West Indies cricket team. I believe that during our successful period, the game was about a lot of skill, attrition level, and we had players, you look at them, 6'5", they bowled all day, they bowled fast. Batsmen, we had a nice story with Greenwich, Haynes, Viv Richards, Larry Gomes, Mr. Dependable, and we just sort of stopped and paid no attention to it. And obviously with that sort of success, that fright that we put in the opposition, that was no longer there. You know, you turn up and you had Chandrapal and Lara and Hooper. You felt that, you know, you had a chance to beat the West Indies team. If you get past Ambrose and Walsh, what do they have to offer? And the rest of the world did take us to task.
So you want to tell us that had you been playing with likes of Gordon Greenwich and Dazzy Haynes, you would have scored 24,000 test runs?
Actually, no, I appreciate the fact that most of my career I felt under pressure, and you may not know, but even at school, you know, being the sort of batsman that everybody depended on. So my style of play really and truly sort of embraced being under pressure. So I don't know how I would have done. I don't know if I would have gotten into the team, to be honest.
No, but I remember in 1978-79, the 12th man was Dazzy Haynes, and the 13th man was Malcolm Denzel Marshall. So I think it would have been a better team, the final 11. So they were not making the 11. So you could well imagine, Ian. And it happened.
And Ian, I was at school.
And you were at school,
I was on the radio at school.
Primary school?
Primary school.
I didn't want to hear that, Brian.
So Rashid, आप मतलब agree कर रहे हैं कि जैसा Brian ने कहा, exactly now मैं आपसे वही पूछूंगा कि शायद हमने भी वही गलती की कि जिस वक्त हम प्राइम कर रहे थे, we didn't realize like West Indies, in case of the West Indies, के they had started to lose and they were on the decline. हमने भी शायद वही गलती की कि हम बहुत खुश रहे कि हम यूएई में जीत रहे हैं. लाइक
वेस्ट इंडीज का थोड़ा सा ड्रॉबैक ये रहा कि वहाँ पे फुटबॉल भी खेल रहे हैं, बास्केटबॉल खेल रहे हैं, या दूसरे गेम में ज़्यादा चले गए, एथलेटिक्स भी है. पाकिस्तान में सिर्फ क्रिकेट है और टैलेंट भी ज़्यादा है. अगर हम पॉपुलेशन देखें पाकिस्तान की बहुत ज़्यादा 20 करोड़ है, तो हमारे यहाँ पॉलिटिक्स और करप्शन मेरे ख्याल से जिसकी वजह से डिक्लाइन आया है. पहले ऐसा नहीं था. अगर 90s के दौर में अगर देखते हैं हम लोग, फेयर सिलेक्शन था, पैसा इन्वेस्ट होता था क्रिकेट के ऊपर. अब ज़्यादातर जो है हमारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के अपने ऊपर ज़्यादा लगता है, प्लेयर्स के ऊपर हमारा कम है फोकस। हम लोग कर सकते हैं इन्वेस्ट अपनी डोमेस्टिक में कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि आईसीसी उतनी ही फंडिंग कर रहा है जितनी ऑस्ट्रेलिया को थोड़ी बहुत ज़्यादा मिल रही है। लेकिन देखा जाए तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया, साउथ अफ्रीका और न्यूजीलैंड को सेम अमाउंट ऑफ मनी मिल रही है आईसीसी से। तो पाकिस्तान को डोमेस्टिक स्ट्रक्चर अपनी कॉम्पिटिटिव क्रिकेट करनी पड़ेगी। वेस्ट इंडीज डिफरेंट कंट्रीज हैं, वहाँ पे आप कह सकते हो एक दफ़ा प्रॉब्लम आ गया तो मुश्किल हो रही है, लेकिन पाकिस्तान में तो क्रिकेट ही सब कुछ है, दूसरा गेम नहीं है कोई भी। हॉकी क्रिकेट की वजह से हमारे नीचे चला गया। कितनी दफ़ा चैंपियन हुआ है पाकिस्तान हॉकी में, ओलंपिक चैंपियन हुआ है, वर्ल्ड चैंपियन हुआ है, चैंपियन ट्रॉफी हुआ है, लेकिन यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक गेम है क्रिकेट, उसको भी हमने इंटरनल पॉलिटिक्स की वजह से खराब किया।
Okay, Ian, Rashid is of the view that, like, I just tried comparing Pakistan's decline with the West Indies, and he thinks that West Indies is totally different because the younger population, they have many other options like basketball or just switching over to the United States and making a career out in baseball. But in Pakistan, cricket has only been the solitary sport after the demise of hockey and squash. And he thinks that it's only because of the failings of the Pakistan Cricket Board and the internal politics and not enough money being invested in their domestic cricket that we have become pedestrian and less effective.
Well, I'd say two things. Imran Khan, a long time ago, was saying that that the domestic cricket was a problem and it needed to be sorted out for Pakistan cricket to go ahead. Now, I've spoken, and Brian, I'd put this question to Brian. Tony Coase here, the great broadcaster from the West Indies, and a couple of other people, said to me often that the West Indies wasn't losing a hell of a lot of young people to basketball, certainly not to baseball. I mean, there's not a lot of West Indians playing baseball in America. I only know of one, I think. There might be a couple more, but not many. And they used to say that that wasn't the main reason why West Indies cricket went down. Is that, do you think
that is definitely not the reason?
Okay.
And, obviously, there's so much different options for youngsters now. And, you know, back then when I was 10 or 11 years old, cricket and soccer, we call it football, were the main options, yes. I don't know about any West Indian that that's playing in the NBA. There might be one or two. Baseball, I don't know about any. I think the failing is really and truly harnessing that talent. Yes, it's been diluted a bit. It's a little bit less than it was before, simply because of the options. But I don't know about any great success stories other than athletics, which Usain Bolt, who, you know, I met as a youngster at the Sabina Park. We've got a couple golfers, but and that is good. That's fine. The cream of the crop still wants to play cricket. And we've had so much examples of guys who have started the game and could not bridge the gap. There's a youngster that made 100 and debut in Australia. Ali, I think his name was, and all of a sudden he's no longer playing cricket. Quite a few young players that have not been able to bridge the gap, and I feel that the responsibility was in the hands of the West Indies Cricket Board and their setup to make sure that these youngsters could do well. I always say, we take very good talent and make it ordinary. The rest of the world take ordinary talent and make it
big. And we have to take a break, but Brian, let me concede one thing. Let me reveal that the live web stream is in the airplane and the big man may well be listening.
I've had my tussles with him.
Okay, game on. We'll be right back, Ji. Back, Ji, aap dekh rahe hain Game On hai. So we have with us Ian Chappell, Brian, Charles, Lara, and of course Rashid Latif Ji. So Brian, now coming back to Champions Trophy, and we wandered a bit because we want to catch up with whatever has been happening in Australia and the West Indies. And of course today I have not been fighting with Rashid. We are just keeping it cool in your presence and as a mark of respect.
I'm a very good referee. Step in.
Like Wasim Akram used to play as a referee, and he used to provoke each party to go and eventually ending up in blows. Right, Ian, if we see England between 2013 to 2015, they were scoring at the rate of 5.21. But since the World Cup 2015, their run rate has been the best in one-day national cricket, and they have clocked 6.24. And the best part is that even in the middle overs, they score at 6.28. And only India is second to them in the middle overs. And surprisingly, Bangladesh, now the team which were, even Ricky Ponting said, should not be playing international cricket at one stage. In the last couple of years, they are now at ICC rankings, they are now world number 6. So they are ahead of West Indies, they are ahead of Pakistan, and even they are ahead of Sri Lanka. So if it comes to Bangladesh, they have won 10 matches during this period since the World Cup 2015, and 8 of them they have been against the major teams. So you see England, Bangladesh in England and in this Champions Trophy.
I think they'll do all right, but I don't see them winning enough games to qualify for the semi-finals. I think they still have a problem when it gets to. I mean, there's fearing defeat and there's also fearing winning. And when you, as a team, you get in a position, particularly when you're one of the, you're not an established team, you're coming up. There is the danger of when you get into a position to win, you think, oh, crikey, we might be able to win now. And that can get in the way of you actually winning. And I think Bangladesh is still in that situation a bit, particularly against the better sides. So, yes, I think they can cause some problems, but we saw them get bowled out for, 80 the other day by India. I still think they've got a problem up against the really major teams.
Okay, now you mentioned India. Coming to India, India in the last 5 years, they have won 8 one-day internationals and lost only 1 in England. But this year, they have only won 8 and they have lost 12. So India is not like they were on a winning spree a couple of years ago. They are the defending champions when it comes to ICC Champions Trophy. So how do you see India in presence of Virat Kohli and of course now MS Dhoni won't be there as in a role where he was in 2013.
I think India will be they'll be pretty tough to beat. They haven't got the outright pace of, say, Australia, England and South Africa to a lesser degree, but I think they've got a well-balanced attack, and whatever the conditions, I think they'll be able to use them quite well. And I think also under Virat Kohli, I think he's a good aggressive captain, and he looks for wickets. To me, one of the things you've got to do in 50-over cricket now is you've got to get wickets, particularly in those middle overs, because if you've got the best players still there in the last 10 overs, you're in big trouble. They're going to get, 100 is minimum now in the last 10 overs. But that's if you've got your best players still at the crease, and they're obviously, by that time, they're very well set. So you've just got to keep taking wickets, and teams that can get wickets in the middle overs, I think will do very well.
Yeah, Brian, so your take on Bangladesh and of course on India when it comes to this Champions Trophy?
Well, I agree with Ian. I think Bangladesh is gonna struggle to win enough games. Are they going to win a game? I don't think so. They've got a very, very tough group with England, New Zealand and Australia. They are playing very good cricket, especially at home. There's different conditions in England. This is a tournament where teams are going to come very hard because they have to win their first 2 games to make sure that they have an opportunity to get into the knockout stages. I am quite happy the way they've played. Courtney Walsh, a West Indian, is there supporting their bowling staff. But I still feel they're going to be found wanting in those conditions, and not up to the task. My little problem with India is that I feel that they're starting to become that team where, the reliance on one player. I'm not saying that they're totally reliant on one player, but the opposing team knows that if they target Virat Kohli, it could put a spoke in their wheel. It could show some sort of little self-doubt with the other players, and I feel that that is going to be one of India's big problems throughout this tournament, that Virat Kohli is going to be targeted. He's expressed himself about wanting to do well. Other teams and opposing teams have said, well, we haven't seen you do well in England. I think that he's going to be a major target, and if he goes early, I feel that it could upset the balance of an Indian challenge.
Yeah. But Brian, recently Virat was not in the runs against Australia at home. So how do you see
at
that?
Home?
Yeah.
I mean, at home is a different story. An Indian...
But he wasn't in the runs.
I know, but an Indian team at home, it's very, very tough. You had the likes, if you go way back to Laxman scoring a double century, maybe one of the greatest double centuries ever made in Test cricket. At home is a different story.
Okay.
When you leave home, you want your top players to be leading the way.
All right.
If that can be dismantled by the opposition, I think that they can struggle a bit.
Yeah. जी राशिद, आप कैसे देख रहे हैं बांग्लादेश को?
बांग्लादेश 2015 के वर्ल्ड कप के बाद जो परफॉर्म किया वो होम पे किया, पाकिस्तान को हराया, इंडिया को हराया, साउथ अफ्रीका, न्यूजीलैंड को हराया, लेकिन बाहर थोड़ा सा परफॉर्मेंस मुश्किल हो जाती है। बायलैटरल सीरीज में ठीक है, लेकिन इवेंट में वर्ल्ड कप वो चैंपियन ट्रॉफी हो जाए या वर्ल्ड कप हो जाए या T20, वहाँ पे थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है। जिस तरह साउथ अफ्रीका का भी सेम है, बायलैटरल तो बहुत कमांडिंग पोजीशन में होते हैं, लेकिन जब भी कोई इवेंट आता है तो उसमें बाकी इंडिया का ये देखेंगे 80s में जिस तरह वेस्ट इंडीज का डिक्लाइन शुरू हुआ 88 में, जिस तरह ब्राइन ने बताया, वहाँ से इंडिया का शुरू होता है थोड़ा सा ऊपर चढ़ना। अगर हम देखते हैं जहीर अब्बास की 6 सेंचुरीज नहीं, उस वक्त इंडिया के पास 1 सेंचुरी थी सिर्फ पूरी ODI क्रिकेट में, वो भी बनाई थी कपिल देव ने। तो उसके बाद इन्होंने प्रोग्रेस शुरू किया, और अब जाके अगर आज देखते हैं उनकी टीम को, 3 वर्ल्ड के बेस्ट ऑलराउंडर्स उनके पास हैं, कह सकते हैं आपको। जडेजा उनके पास है, पांड्या उनके पास खेल रहा है, बॉलिंग बहुत अच्छी है, यादव है, शामी है, भवेश्वर कुमार है, और एक फास्ट बॉलर और बुमराह उनके पास मौजूद है। स्पिन और फास्ट बॉलिंग अटैक दोनों इनके पास है, और एक स्पिन बॉलिंग ऑलराउंडर है, एक फास्ट बॉलिंग ऑलराउंडर जो है, जो कि किसी टीम के पास भी ऐसा कॉम्बिनेशन नहीं है। धोनी जो कि आपको पता है कि मिडिल ऑफ द इनिंग में सबसे अच्छा खेलता है, जैसे ब्रायन ने कहा विराट कोहली जो बिग ओकेजन में बिग प्लेयर है, जीनियस है वो।
ओके, सो यू थिंक ही थिंक्स दैट इंडिया दे आर क्वाइट अ फॉर्मिडेबल।
एक टॉक इसमें आएगी कि वो टीम है बॉलिंग में जो कि सबसे ज्यादा राइट एरियाज में बॉलिंग करते हैं, क्योंकि 145 प्लस नहीं है, कम पेस है, तो राइट एरियाज में स्पिनर और फास्ट बॉलर सबसे ज्यादा बॉल जो करते हैं वो इंडियन टीम है।
वेल ही थिंक्स दैट इंडिया इज द मोस्ट बैलेंस्ड टीम, हाउ ही सीज इट, and Virat is obviously known, he's notorious for performing on the bigger stage, and then MS Dhoni the best in the middle overs, and then Ravindra Jadeja giving that variety of being not only a batsman of highest pedigree, but he's number 1 in rankings when it comes to bowling as well. So, and then they have a fast bowling all-rounder, so he thinks that like India is quite balanced and they may well be a hard nut to crack during this Champions Trophy.
Oh yeah, they'll be hard to beat. I would agree, a very well balanced attack. The batting, is good.
Yeah.
But we'll see how good it is in England.
In England, okay. And now Ian and Brian, coming on to New Zealand, they have always been a dark horse, and if you remember, even in your times, they used to manage to reach the semi-finals, but never broke fully into the final or win the tournaments. But now they have had some of the highest pedigree to one-day players. How do you see them under Kane Williamson after Brendan McCullum? Do you really feel that there could be a change in mindset now, because Brendan was a different breed altogether?
Yeah, New Zealand, they're always a solid team, and they always give the best that they've got.
Yeah.
But they're in that group with England and Australia. I don't see them...
Australia are not favourites, no?
Eh?
No? Australia, are they favourites?
No, I would say England are probably the favourites.
Okay, you're right.
But Australia have got to be up there. And I think both Australia and England are better sides than New Zealand. New Zealand, they just lack the real power players of both England and Australia.
Okay.
So yes, they'll be very competitive, and you catch them on a good day, they could beat either of those two sides.
Okay.
But I don't see them winning enough to qualify for the semis.
Okay. So your take on New Zealand?
I think that they've become a little more calculative in terms of when Brendan McCullum was there, they took their chances, they played freely, and if they got into a winning situation, they went on to win. of course, sometimes it all went all wrong. You know,
Yeah.
he goes in the first over, and then the game is over. I feel that they can be an upset. You know, yes, England and Australia is expected, but I think it's going to be Australia and New Zealand going through in the semi-finals. I just feel that they have more of a game plan than England. England, you talked about earlier, and is scoring in excess of 6 runs and over. They're playing at home. But I don't think they have a game plan, and that was very evident in that T20 World Cup final. You know, you can't just bowl a last over of a tournament and get hit for 4 sixes. I mean, that's zero game plan.
Right.
So if they produce the same form in the 5th over of the game, I don't expect them to do very well. I did say a few days ago that England has a better one-day team that they had 10, 15 years ago. You look at Flintoff, they're all dependent on a few players. Now they've got batting at the beginning, in the middle, they've got good all-round players right through, and they are a very, very good team. But I believe New Zealand has what it takes to win a game or two.
But Brian, bad news for you, because 2 of the top batsmen this year, they have been Ian Morgan from England and Joe Root from England in one-day cricket. And they are playing in England. So
yeah, I said they have a good team. They have a better team now than they've ever had. But winning a cricket game is you know, you gotta have that. You gotta have that drive to win a cricket game, to win a big tournament. When has England won a big tournament?
Come on, Ian, now disagree with Brian. So let's pep it up. Let's pep it up.
You expect me to support England? No chance. I mean, the one thing I'd say about England is surely they've got to find a place for Bairstow. I mean, Jason Roy has had, you know, he's had, what, 5, 6 low scores in a row. Okay, it's nice to be sticking with a guy and showing faith in him, but when you've got another guy who for the last 12, 18 months has just made runs in every form of the game and made lots of them, I just don't understand why they're not thinking about playing Bairstow ahead of Roy. Now, whether they feel that Bairstow can't open, but I mean, surely they can. I mean, Joe Root could open the batting. Joe's a very good player, but to me, they've got to find a spot for Bairstow.
So, and you want to
No, I was just going to say it can go all wrong for England tomorrow. That's what I want to say.
Don't tell me now you want them to lose against Bangladesh, huh?
I didn't say I want them to lose. I said it can go all wrong.
Oh, right.
You know, I mean, Bangladesh have been able to create some surprises over the years.
Oh,
You
yeah,
never know,
sure.
yeah.
All right. So, Rashid bhai, आप कैसे देख रहे हैं? Now, let's decide the groups में India and Sri Lanka, South Africa and Pakistan. Current form पे, any hopes for Pakistan or it has to be South Africa and India? Current form.
देखें, बाहर से बैठ के डिफरेंट होता है. जब मैच शुरू होता है, मे बी टॉस बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. अगर पिच पे मॉइस्चर है या बॉल मूव कर रही है और टॉस इंडिया हार जाता है और पाकिस्तान की बॉलिंग अटैक ऐसा है कि 200, 225 पे आउट कर देता है, तो यहाँ चांस होता था. लेकिन वैसे अगर देखा जाए तो इंडिया बहुत स्ट्रांग है. लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से एक मैच पे पाकिस्तान को फोकस करना चाहिए, वो इंडिया के साथ है, क्योंकि चैंपियन ट्रॉफी में पाकिस्तान पहले हरा चुका है इंडिया को.
जी.
तो नो डाउट इंडिया बहुत स्ट्रांग है, लेकिन टॉस के ऊपर बहुत डिपेंड करता है कि आप बड़ी बड़ी टीम भी हारी हैं. लाइक वेस्ट इंडीज इंडिया के खिलाफ हारी है, 83 का वर्ल्ड कप हारी है. तो पाकिस्तान के पास हम बिल्कुल माइनस नहीं करेंगे पाकिस्तान को,
ऑफ कोर्स.
तो पाकिस्तान टीम है, यंग प्लेयर भी है, बॉलिंग अच्छी है, तो ऑन अ डे कुछ भी हो सकता है.
Okay, well, Ian, Rashid thinks that when it comes to Pakistan, of course, South Africa and India, they are the likely qualifiers from this group. He still thinks that Pakistan could beat India. They have had a better record in the Champions Trophy playing against India. Otherwise, in the World Cups, they have been absolutely mauled. So he still thinks that if supposedly Pakistan bowls first and there is a bit of seam and the ball wavers in the corridor of uncertainty, then India may well be restricted to 220, 230. That could be the only outside chance for Pakistan. And he is a little skeptical and ambiguous about Pakistan making it to a Final Four.
Yeah, you know, on current form, you'd have to say India, South Africa from Group B going through. But it is, Rashid makes a good point about the early start in England, starting at 10:30. You know, if there is a little bit there early on, it's, you know, we saw in in the South Africa-England series. South Africa won all 3 tosses, sent England in every time, which is an indication that they feel that there's going to be something there. So, you know, that, I mean, if that happens, if you've got, I mean, Pakistan have got a good bowling attack. If they do win the toss, send India in, and there is a bit of movement around, that's probably Pakistan's best chance.
Okay. Now, Brian, last but not the least, no, I have to ask you 2 questions. One in this round and then in another one. Do you really think that now in this modern cricket, the way now scores of 450 overs and England scoring 300 on 20 occasions, so it has just 300 has become a benchmark, a bare minimum. You need to post 300 in order to ensure that you are winning. So do you really think that mindset has changed, skill set has changed, or like the equipment, the bats, the boundaries, they have been curtailed, the pitches, they have become better than the times when you people were playing?
I believe so. I think it's more the mindset. You get into a one-day game 25 years ago, you know that if you get in excess of 250, you're in the driver's seat.
Okay.
You know how batsmen were going to approach batting. They're going to try to get something in the first 15 overs, but sort of consolidate if they lose a wicket. Gradually, you know, 5-6 runs and over in the middle. That's not the case nowadays.
Okay.
You know, nowadays, you know, guys are looking for, you know, 100 plus in the first 15. I think it started with maybe Sanat Jayasuriya in the World Cup when he was given the license to go and hit the ball all around the place. I think in England, though, if you get in excess of 300 runs, as England showed in the warm-up in the one-day internationals against South Africa, you can defend it. Maybe you can't defend it in the subcontinent and in other places, but I think it's defendable. There's going to be something in there for the bowlers, and if the batsmen were to play well and get the runs on the board, I believe that the game is a lot fairer game in English conditions. So the mindset now is totally different. I mean, the guys are just unbelievable, especially in the T20 version of the game, and that is now trickling into the longer limited over version.
And secondly, do you really think that innovation, the way they now play AB de Villiers 360 degrees around, so do you really think that it is just purely the skill, or the super fitness correlates with what now they are doing and the way they're innovating?
I think it's, you know, this has been pioneered by quite a few players. Dilshan is maybe one of the few ones that started early, and players are now doing it. Forget the international stage. You go and watch some cricket in the streets in the West Indies, or I'm sure in Pakistan. They are trying to play these shots from very, very early. So I think the players have brought a new dimension to the game, a new look to the game, which is exciting. And as a onlooker now, I'm very appreciative of it. I know, of course, you know, you talk about the purists and the test matches and this and that, but I think the game has evolved, and it's wonderful. It's a great spectator sport now, and people are really looking forward to it.
All right. Ji Rashid, you wanted to add something?
न्यूजीलैंड की बात कर रहे थे आप। न्यूजीलैंड की टीम को अगर देखा जाए 1992 का वर्ल्ड कप और 2015 का वर्ल्ड कप, बेस्ट वर्ल्ड कप इन्होंने खेले हैं। होम पे बहुत स्ट्रांग है, लेकिन मैं एग्री करता हूँ ब्रायन की बात पे कि वो टीम ऐसी है कि अपसेट करने की सलाहियत रखती है। बाकी अभी जो क्वेश्चन आपने किया है कि आजकल के जो प्लेयर्स हैं, अगर हम नाम लेंगे तो 5 से 6 प्लेयर्स के नाम आएंगे। जो रूट आएगा, विलियमसन आएगा, विराट कोहली आ जाएगा, डिविलियर्स आ जाएगा, एक आध और कोई
हाशिम मामला को भी,
हाशिम मामला। लेकिन हम 80s 90s के में जाते हैं तो हर टीम के पास 3-4 गुड प्लेयर्स थे, मौजूद थे, लेकिन उनके पास अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं थी वनडे में हिटिंग करने की, या T20 थी नहीं। तो ये आप कह सकते हैं क्लास जो थी, जैसे ग्रेड्स जो पैदा किए, टेस्ट क्रिकेट नहीं किए ना, जितने भी ग्रेड्स पैदा हुए वो सारे टेस्ट क्रिकेट से हुए हैं। अगर हम सारे ग्रेड्स के नाम निकालते हैं तो 2000 पे आके ब्रेक लग जाती है, क्योंकि वो क्लास नजर नहीं आती। हाँ, 4-5 एक टाइम के प्लेयर होते हैं जो अभी मौजूद हैं।
Okay, now this is
you know, Yam asked me, you've got an opinion from Ian. I'm from Rashid about who's going to make, you know, who's going to go through.
Sure, sir.
New Zealand, Australia, Pakistan, Sri Lanka.
Now I think we should shut down.
That's my thought.
Now, Ian, I would repeat. Is it boggling, perplexing? He's coming out with Pakistan and Sri Lanka from one group, and New Zealand and
Australia. This is going to be the same final.
You didn't say Sri Lanka, did you?
Yes, I said Pakistan.
Yeah, he said Pakistan.
I think the entire Indian team is a very tired team after the IPL.
Okay.
That is my feeling. There's a lot of
yeah.
traveling. There's a lot of
Okay.
back and forth playing the IPL, and I feel that they're maybe jaded after 6 weeks of traveling around England, India playing cricket. And I don't fancy them a lot in this tournament. I feel that Sri Lanka is fresh. Pakistan is coming off the West Indies. They have some very, very good bowlers, especially for English conditions.
Yeah.
And that's my two team. But I still believe that it might be a 2015 World Cup Finals, Australia, New Zealand?
Yeah.
I believe that there's going to be a repeat.
2015 World Cup. So I think there's no need to get this transmission on till the 18th. Everything is done and dusted, decided here. So last but not the least, Rashid named a couple of players, and he thinks, he has a point, he's still a believer in Test match cricket, and he thinks that the legendary batsman, the classy batsmen with that attitude and flamboyance, they came up till year 2000, and then we hardly find any player of that caliber, like in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. And he thinks that this modern cricket is like, still you have to get back to the Test matches to produce the legendary players like Ian Chappells and Viv Richards and Brian Laras and Javed Mirdad's. Do you tend to agree with him?
Well, I think there are some administrators out there who believe that the game can survive on T20 cricket alone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced it can.
Okay.
I think there's, with batting in particular, there's got to be some artistry there. It can't all be power hitting.
All right.
And the point I'd make about T20 is, when people, you go back to the early days of 50-over cricket, and what were they talking about that was really exciting? They were talking about the running between wickets. They were talking about the fielding. Now, if guys are hitting sixes all the time, where's the fielding? Where's the running between wickets?
You're right.
And if it's just constant six hitting,
yeah.
it can be. I mean, the other game that I have followed all my life is baseball. They have a thing called the home run derby in the middle of the season, where you get a practice pitcher who just lobs balls up, and the guy tries to see how many home runs he can get. Now that's what the game will be like, I think, if it's all six hitting. Yeah. There's got to be more to cricket than just power hitting. There's got to be some artistry. Interesting point that Brian made about the 50-over game being at its fairest in England. Yeah. And I think the reason for that is that in England there's always a bit there for the bowler.
Okay.
And to me, the game of cricket, doesn't matter what version, T20, 50-over, Test match, whatever version it is, the bowlers have got to have a chance in the game. It's got to be a contest. Okay. If it's not a contest, if it just becomes a batting exhibition, I'm afraid I don't enjoy it much. But I really enjoy it when it's a contest.
But the administrators think that more
runs
you score, more bucks you get.
Well, I mean, how can you possibly come up with a combination of improved bats and shorter boundaries? I mean, tell me the genius who thinks that's a good idea. I mean, it's ludicrous.
Okay. So last but not the least, Brian. England scores a boundary, a 4 or a 6 in the last 4 years, every 10 balls, and second best is Bangladesh. Any suggestions about that? They take 9 balls. They take 9 balls to score a boundary.
Those are the two teams that I said going to be packing and leaving early. So okay. It's all well and good to be doing that on a regular basis, playing a 5 one-day match series. Mm-hmm. This is where it counts. The Champions Trophy, the World Cup, and England have always stumbled, in these sort of tournaments, and I don't expect it to be any different. As I said, they've got a very well balanced team, good players. What is their game plan? I want to see their game plan when they're coming up against Australia, and then they're coming up against Bangladesh tomorrow. I want to see how clinical they are until I sort of, give them that chance to go on to be victors.
Okay, so Ian, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And it was a pleasure to host you, and I hope that it's not only that you have come here for the show and you are appearing on PTV Sports, but I personally feel it will go a long way as a baby step taken towards ensuring that international cricket returns to Pakistan.
Hope so.
And I think, do you have anything to say about this, that we have to move forward and now we have to convince the ICC and the rest of the member boards to seriously consider bringing international cricket back to this country?
Well, I think cricket has, has an obligation to do everything it possibly can to get international cricket back into Pakistan. I mean, I talked before about how it was abrogation of their duty when they've let the West Indies slide so badly. Again, it would be the same situation if they're not doing everything within their power to get international cricket back to Pakistan.
All right.
Pakistan is a strong cricket nation. I mean, you've got your. I go back again to what I said before about globalising the game. That's fine, but don't do it at the and letting some of your powerful cricket nations go down the mine.
Okay, and your say on international cricket returning to Pakistan? Because you brought a resume last time. You said that you're ready to be the coach of the Pakistan team.
The PSL finals being played in Pakistan, I think it's a very good step.
Okay.
Yes, the ICC has that responsibility to do everything possible. First and foremost, for the security of all players around the world. Also, decisions can be made in that direction in a positive way, yes, but the players also have to feel very, very comfortable. So the PSL was a good start. I know Sir Vivian Richards was here, Darren Sammy was here, Marlon Summers was here as international players, and that is one stride. But a lot of work would still have to be done. I think Ian being here, I was here, Glenn McGrath was here before. I think it's a step in the right direction, and hopefully we're going to have more steps like this where, Pakistan will be able to play cricket in their own country. I'm not too worried about the players playing cricket in their own country, but I'd love to see the people, the joy in their face. I mean, I was not here for the PSL final, but I understood it was an amazing experience. It was
a jam-packed stadium. Thank you very much, Brian, and thank you very much, Rashid bhai. कुछ कहना चाहेंगे जाते जाते?
बिल्कुल, नेक्स्ट ईयर जो PSL का प्लान यही बन रहा है कि